2001, the day the internet went quiet. News spread that the judge the internet loved most had passed at 88, and for a strange, gentle moment, the scroll just slowed. Not because people enjoy seeing tickets tossed, or because they're obsessed with courthouse drama, but because they recognize something rare. A person with power choosing empathy without making a show of it. Comment sections filled with small thank yous. A dad who said a clip helped him explain fairness to his team. A nurse who watched on break and felt calmer walking back to a hard shift. A college kid who'd never seen authority sound like that and realized rules don't have to be cold. The line that kept reappearing felt like a chorus. He made the law feel human. That line wasn't marketing, it was memory. Thousands of tiny cases where someone scared and tired walked in, and someone steady and kind met them halfway. The internet doesn't agree on much, but it seemed to agree on him, which is odd when you think about it. How does a municipal courtroom, parking tickets, late fees, small mistakes, end up creating global comfort food for the soul? The answer doesn't begin with fame or viral clips. It starts in a cramped apartment long before a camera ever found his face. But that wasn't the whole story. 2. The shoeshine kid who learned to listen. He grew up where hot water was a treat, not a guarantee, and where rent felt like a monthly cliff you climbed with scraped knees. He learned early what dignity costs. Sometimes it's counted in coins from a shoeshine stand. Sometimes it's the pride you swallow when you ask for a little time to pay a bill. Those details didn't make him sentimental, they made him precise. Years later, when a nervous driver stood in front of him, palms damp over a small citation, he didn't just hear dates and plate numbers. He caught the breath before the sentence, the wobble when someone tried to sound tougher than they felt, the relief when a simple question opened a door. What really happened? The little jokes weren't for show, they were levers that lifted fear off the floor. He knew the courtroom wasn't just a room with rules, it was a room with people, and people bring complicated mornings. That's why he waited the extra beat, why he asked the extra question, why a kid's honest answer could reset the temperature of the whole day. None of that began on TV. It began in a neighborhood that taught him to hear what isn't said. And then, almost by accident, those instincts met a camera, and everything changed in ways he couldn't predict. 3. A tiny local experiment that outgrew the room. At first, Caught in Providence was just a local curiosity, the sort of show you stumble on when you're flipping channels too late and land somewhere oddly comforting. Small cases, short exchanges, a tone that didn't scold. It looked ordinary and felt revolutionary. The clips slipped from local access to social feeds, and suddenly a courtroom few people had heard of was showing up in comment threads from Manila to Manchester. You didn't need subtitles to understand a breath of relief when a fine became a warning, or a half laugh when a judge softened a tense moment with a single line. That universality turned the show into a quiet phenomenon. Headlines arrived. Syndication followed. And with it a fair question. Would his decisions look the same if a lens weren't pointed at the bench? The producers repeated what they'd always said. These were real proceedings with people free to opt out, but the bigger a story gets, the more it attracts doubters. That's the basic math of the internet. Attention multiplies affection and skepticism at the same time. Still, underneath the noise, the clips kept doing the thing they were built to do. They made strangers feel seen, and that points to the engine behind all of it, the philosophy that looked like softness but functioned like craft. 4. Mercy is a method, not a mood. Calling it niceness misses the point. He treated mercy like a tool you pick up on purpose, not a mood you fall into by accident. A penalty that empties a grocery budget but doesn't change behavior isn't justice. It's paperwork with collateral damage. A warning that lands, a payment plan someone can breathe through, a simple acknowledgement of a messy week, those can move a life by an inch, and an inch is sometimes everything. His questions were plain on purpose because plain questions invite honest answers. His humor was small on purpose because small humor disarms without humiliating. He wasn't romantic about it. He still enforced the rules, but he matched response to reality. The reason a child's candid answer could reset a room wasn't because he was indulgent. It was because he knew the fastest way to the truth is often through kindness. Viewers felt that without needing the vocabulary for it. They felt the difference between being processed and being heard. That difference is thrilling to watch, which is why the clips kept circling the world. And the more they circled, the more they ran into a familiar headwind, the notion that firmness and compassion can't share the same sentence. Critics sharpened their takes. Rumors sprouted. The debate grew louder than any single case. 5. The debate most people never read to the end. As views climbed, so did the arguments. Some voices said leniency blunts deterrence, that if consequences don't sting, people won't change. It's a clean theory, easy to tweet. Reality is muddier. Municipal judges use discretion everywhere. The question isn't whether to use it, but how to use it responsibly. He chose to bet on dignity as a more durable teacher than embarrassment. Did he always get it perfect? Of course not. No judge does. Meanwhile, a smaller camp whispered that the warmth had to be staged, that nothing in the public sector could feel that humane without a script. What can be said without spin is simple. Coverage and producers describe the show as filming real cases with consent, not acted scenes. People are free to speculate, this is the internet, but credible proof of staging never materialized. And if you actually watch the pattern across hundreds of clips, you notice something the rumors overlook. The consistency of the questions, the patience with timid speakers, the steadiness of tone in cases that never make headlines. The debate won't resolve in a comment section, but it set the stage for a harder chapter, one that made even the loud takes go quiet for a while. 6. Diagnosis, defiance, and a bell that echoed. He didn't disappear when the diagnosis arrived. He told people the truth, asked for prayers, and kept showing up. Thinner for a time, quieter some days, but still there. The updates were brief, unadorned, and oddly buoyant. Little notes of progress. Then the moment everyone remembers. Ringing the bell after radiation ended, smiling in a way that felt like relief more than victory. The comments under those posts turned from applause to community care. Strangers wrote about their parents' treatments, about the chair in the infusion room that becomes a second home, about hope taking the shape of a routine. In mid-August, a photo from a hospital bed appeared with a few words about a setback and gratitude for every message that had kept his spirits up. There was no drama in the phrasing, just the humility of someone letting people in. Hours later, the announcement nobody wanted arrived and the internet did something rare. It listened to itself. People who disagreed on almost everything else paused long enough to agree on a feeling. Grief, yes. But also thanks for the example of showing up gently in places that rarely reward gentleness. Which leads to the question that survives the headlines. Why did a local courtroom resonate everywhere? 7. Why this crossed borders without translation? The cases were tiny, the feelings enormous. A late fee, a missed sign, a mix-up with a street name. Nothing cinematic, everything familiar. That's why the clips worked in any country. You don't need a legal glossary to recognize a tightened jaw or a breath you've been holding all morning. He loved the feedback loop that social media created, not for vanity, but for connection. He could see the effect in real time. A clip that softened someone's day across an ocean. A comment that turned into a story about a grandmother who kept a parking ticket in her purse because the warning felt like mercy she could touch. The more people watched, the more they started asking their own institutions to sound like that. Schools, clinics, offices, anywhere rules meet humans. That quiet pressure is the real legacy of all those minutes online. Once you've witnessed a kinder version of authority, the colder version looks lazy by comparison. And while one person can model that tone, a million viewers can normalize it, which sets up the only part of the story that actually matters after the news cycle resets. What do we do with the blueprint he left behind? 8. What endures after the gavel? He retired from the bench, but the message didn't retire with him. It kept moving through reposts and memories and small choices made by people who never met him. The blueprint isn't complicated, which is why it's hard. Listen first, enforce second, and remember that the worst 10 minutes of someone's month might be happening in front of you right now. Fairness doesn't weaken when delivered with grace. It gets stronger because it's easier to accept. The arguments about deterrence and firmness will continue as they should because systems improve when we argue in good faith. But his story suggests something stubborn. A soft voice can carry farther in a hard room than we expect. If kindness can trend, maybe it can also stick. The next time a small case brushes a big system, somebody will remember a clip where rules and mercy shared the same bench, and they'll act an inch kinder than they planned. And that inch, multiplied across the city, is not small at all. It's the kind of change that doesn't announce itself loudly, but you feel it when the door opens and the person with the clipboard looks up and says your name like it matters.